I guess we're still on the Industrial Revolution. We're in A10 again. I'm Mr. Heeg, this is Mr. Kogan, and today we're going to be talking more about steel. I think it's a good point here to kind of like circle back to this, because when we talked about the railroads becoming faster, cheaper, much more efficient, more word, those similar words you're going to hear again, but when we look at steel, steel is being used with the rail lines. You're going to use steel to make the rail lines itself. Steel is going to be used within the trains. So we're going to move into steel.
Steel is going to become like the veins of America.
Absolutely. And the man who is the true man of steel that we're going to be talking about here is not Superman. It's going to be Carnegie, and I'm sure you probably heard about him. We talked about pools in the previous one, where areas where railroad companies would divide up an area, fix the price, and kind of control the competition or eliminate competition. When we look at the jobs that are created by railroads, we talked about lumberjacks, miners, workers, but we're going to kind of like go right into the steel workers, all right, and look at that. So if you are an NFL fan, you might see where this is possibly going.
Yeah, and like, so with steel, steel's been around for millennia.
Absolutely.
You know, the samurai warriors would make their metal out of steel. The problem with it was the process itself. It was long, time-consuming, and therefore
more money,
expensive.
Exactly.
So no, everyone's like, no, we don't want steel. You know, if you're a business trying to make something to make a profit, you're not going to waste your time with steel. You're going to be building things out of copper or whatnot, and all these other things which are less strong.
Right, absolutely.
So that's really where Carnegie kind of comes in, and the man doesn't revolutionize anything. he just had vision. And
a lot of these guys that we're going to talk about in this unit, none of them really, they took whatever was out there and they just made it better.
Yeah,
they made it work for them.
Think Jeff Bezos with Amazon.
Yes,
he didn't invent the internet.
No,
he didn't invent shipping companies.
No,
he didn't invent anything.
He was just able to combine like a few things,
exactly,
and just make it much more efficient. There we go with that word. So, just spin off of what Mr. Kogan was saying with when it comes to the steel process, making it's very costly. The Bessemer process is going to make it easier, much more efficient. What I like to do is go with, hey, best makes best. It's cheaper, it's much more efficient, and it was actually stronger as well. And more and more people are going to be able to afford it and use it.
Yeah, the whole Bessemer process is like this really cool thing that was like developed a long time ago, but it was done on a small scale.
And here's probably, right here.
Yeah, so like the Bessemer process was done in like, picture almost like a 50-gallon drum garbage can was like what Carnegie watched.
Okay.
But Carnegie had this vision of, I'm going to take that 50-gallon drum and make it like the size of a 2-story building.
Because he took this process over from England.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, and basically, so like, getting into the science of it, basically the Bessemer process is you melt iron ore, and then you blast it with oxygen, and it burns off the carbon that's inside the iron, leaving behind pure steel. There's a whole, like, I'm so not a scientist, but that's kind of like what it is. It's just blasting air into molten iron, and the oxygen burns off all the carbon impurities.
So I'm not, again, a scientist either, especially when it comes to steel, but when you're talking about the strength of steel itself, steel, when exposed to high heat flames or whatever, it starts to become weak at about 1,000 degrees. Don't hold me to that number, but you're right around there. What is true failure after that? I mean, of course, that's much higher. But
yeah, my kids are always like, well, then what did they make those giant things out of? And I'm like,
Which one?
Like, go back.
Where we go?
Like, no, that. Like, what is this? What are these made out of?
Oh,
They're melting the steel into that. And I'm like, I don't know.
Moving along. That's it. So more about the process. All right, we'll come back to that. However, when we start to, another word we're going to start to see more and more is that when we're looking at, the best makes best for less when it comes to steel, you're able to mass produce steel. Now, mass produced, a lot of things are mass produced today. And when you're making large amounts of a particular product and you're making it cheaply and fast, what happens is that the price is going to become lower. All right. So you're going to see a lot of things in society now that we've introduced to this are mass produced. That's why they're affordable. The benefits that we're looking at with steel, steel lines, nails, screws, needles, a lot of other businesses are going to be dependent upon steel. which is going to bring us to this bridge. When it came to this bridge, because you were like, this bridge is just random here. No,
Yeah.
the Keystone Bridge. I saw it in The Men Who Made America.
Okay.
So the way to kind of get the word out there that steel is efficient works, this was a bridge that they used steel. Now, of course, do you want to be the first person to walk over this thing to kind of prove that this bridge is going to hold up under steel? Not a lot of people are going to want to volunteer for that. So what they did do is that they took an elephant, and you know, when you talk about silly science, I guess this is where it comes in. An elephant, of course, is going to be heavy, walk across this, and maybe make people a little happy. The other thing too is just, it was common at that time that an elephant was not going to step on something that they felt was unstable, wasn't steady or sturdy, excuse me. So that's where this comes from, where this elephant walked across, and then everybody became a believer. And then, of course, for him, you know, great photo op, great opportunity to create a story, to get it out there, to then get steel, more and more people believers of steel. So that's where this bridge comes from. Steel mills. Okay, if you're an NFL fan, all right, let's think. What city is probably known for steel?
Yeah, they just beat the Giants last night.
They did, huh? Sorry to hear it. It's going to be Pittsburgh.
Yeah, Carnegie bought, I think it was like 20 football fields length of property.
Something to that
effect, in the hopes that he could turn the Bessemer process and mass produce steel from going from the Bessemer process, small little cauldrons, to this massive facility. And he gambled everything.
Oh yeah.
Like, he borrows so much money that he didn't have on the chance that this worked. And when it worked, he is going to become, I think, the third richest man in the history of the United States.
And the thing that's interesting, I'm glad you're bringing up the gamble and the risk that these guys take, because when people look back at them, history and historians are not always kind to these people, you know, because they see the end game for these guys. They see what they attained throughout taking all of these risks, where you have things named after Carnegie. He wound up buying out a lot of businesses, and he was a millionaire probably 3 times over. But a lot of these guys that we're going to talk about, they didn't have much. They were from humble beginnings. That was definitely certainly the case with Carnegie. And they had some vision, they had an idea, and really they took a huge gamble, like all in as far as a card game is concerned, where failure was very, very likely, success, hope, and they made it. I mean, of course, there's other things that they did that we'll talk about in this unit that may not be popular as far as how they treated their workers. However, they did take a lot of risks.
Yep.
And the city of Pittsburgh, they definitely benefited from this.
It was the perfect location for him.
Sure.
Western Pennsylvania, there's plenty of coal mines.
Right.
You're going to need coal to be firing the furnaces 24 hours a day, melting down this iron ore. West Virginia, iron mines and coal mines in West Virginia.
Still to this day.
Yeah, it was like a perfect location. 3 rivers, where the 3 rivers combine, be able to then ship out easily along the railroads, but also shipping down the Mississippi to New Orleans. And
the key word here, as everything we're talking about, this helped to create jobs. You're going to need people to, be working in the steel mills. You're going to need people finding all of this coal and mining for it. This is going to create jobs. They're local economies. When you look at certain areas, cities, towns, states, countries, their economy will sometimes be dependent on something. Hawaii tourism. We're bringing up Pittsburgh and West Virginia when it comes to steel and coal. We're looking at Detroit, which is known for the auto industry. So, when those industries are not doing well, people's pockets are going to suffer. People are going to probably get laid off or lose their jobs. So, steel mills, you're going to start to see them popping up in Pittsburgh. They're the ones that kind of put that on the map. And then when it came to that, of course, it's just a map of Pennsylvania, or these areas where a lot of this was taking place. That's pretty much it for this. I mean, are we leaving anything out with steel?
No. I mean, we're definitely going to come back to Carnegie.
Oh, he's absolutely.
My personal favorite.
Okay.
Captain of industry. Because Rockefeller, just real ruthless.
Oh.
J.P. Morgan, born with a silver spoon in his hand.
Sure.
Even Vanderbilt came from humble-ish beginnings, but was involved in. This guy grew up poorer than dirt in Scotland. Immigrated here to the United States, worked his way up through the ranks, got enough money to hey, let me take a gamble on this, and turns himself into.
So since you have a favorable opinion of this guy. Is he a sweetheart because the other guys were so ruthless?
I think so.
Is that it?
I think if you put him stand alone,
right,
you still think he's a dirtbag.
Right.
But when you compare him to the other
when he's in a conversation with like Rockefeller and Vanderbilt, you're like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
This guy's a cupcake compared to Vanderbilt. I will ruin you.
And really, it's for what he does with his wealth.
At the
end of his life, where Rockefeller was like holding on to everything he possibly could.
And of course, if you want to get to Carnegie Hall, practice. The worst joke, and we will probably just end that off right here. Thanks for watching.
Have a great day.